want to help. We want to ensure that one or two people are impacted, and the best way you can support us in this process is to reach many other people. So once again, I want to welcome you to the Transformation Professionals Club webinar, a webinar that we organize weekly, which is aimed at helping professionals in different areas. And in today's session, we want to be able to learn how do we manage career transition. All right. So you're most welcome to today's session. Once again, my name is Coach Samuel Uganda. I'm a career growth mentor, as well as a business coach. I also happen to do quite a number of other tasks around financial management, accounting, and I also happen to lead the team at the Transformation Professionals Club. And today I'm humbled to host Joan Mugenzi. So I've just tried to share her profile. We'll be able to learn a few things from Joan. So Joan Mugenzi is a transformation master's coach, and she comes with over 385. I know these have increased of coaching training and over 2,500 hours of coaching with the focus on employment transition and organizational coaching culture. So for today's topic, we are with the right person whose focus is employment transition. So whether you're starting new jobs, moving into new roles, grappling with management and leadership transitions, or planning an exit, Joan is the master at facilitating these conversations, just like the way we have today's conversation. So she has trained in the coaching up to the highest level of mastery, and she's certified as a team coach and wholly believes in transformative power of professional coaching and mentoring. So she is a founding president of the International Coaching Federation Uganda chapter, and she has quite a number of experiences that you'll be able to learn. So as we can see, education-wise, she's a Master Certified Coach, MCC, with the International Coaching Federation, as well as an ICF Professional Certified Coach. She holds a Master's in Public Health Leadership, a postgraduate in a Diploma in Journalism and Media Management, and a Bachelor of Arts from Makerere University. So her areas of focus is executive coaching, employment transition, retirement planning, performance management, team building, transformative coaching, mentoring, among others. So she has served on quite a number of different, of course, boards, as well as clients. And yeah, so I would say that personally, I've known Joan through the online space, very resourceful. There are quite a number of posts that she posts nearly every day. She runs Imagine Me Africa, and you really learn from her. I believe that I could not think of any other person who could handle this topic. And I know we are at this time of the year, and basically it's a timing of its own where we've had recent events that are happening, from the funds freeze. Quite a number of things are happening. We are even still stabilizing when it comes to how the economy is revamping itself from COVID. There are quite a number of things that are really happening, but what stands out is the impact from the, you said, funds freeze has left many people without jobs. We've also had different ministries, especially for Uganda, different entities dissolved back into ministries. And we also have quite a number of companies that have closed shop, And one of those that is a bit recent, that will be recent, is Umeme, which will be I think will be winding out since their contract is ending. So there are quite a number of people who are experiencing this kind of transition, but we also have people who in employment, but they don't feel like that is a place where they should be. We also have people who going into retirement, either somebody's 35, 40, 50, and they're going into retirement either with love or forcefully. So a lot is happening. So the reason why we organize this session is to see what can somebody do at this time, if at all they want to transition. Of course, career transition is a wider topic and does not only mean moving from one job to retirement or self-employment. Career transition is really, really a wide topic, and that's one of the things that Joan does. But today we want to concentrate on that career transition more from being an employee, being somebody who is working for an organization on an employment contract, to now creating your own job that you're going to run as a person. So that is what we want to be able to basically talk about. So I want to say thank you so much, Joan, for accepting to have this conversation. I know what it takes to have you in this room. You have had even quite a number of activities. I could see your socials, some of your activities that you've done during the day. And when I saw them, I was like, wow, this is true leadership, pouring yourself into the world and showing up and saying, I'm going to do it, I'm going to serve. So welcome, Joan. Thank you so much for creating time for the Transformation Professionals Club. And I know that this session will be worth your time. And I do believe that we will be able to learn from you, and God will be able to speak through you as you speak to us. You're welcome, Joan.
Thank you. I can see that the video is disabled. So hi, everyone that is on the call. So thank you so much for having me here tonight. I'm excited. I see some names that I recognize, and I see those that are my social media followers, especially on LinkedIn, that I'm very deliberate on. Once upon a time, my journey started off now on Facebook. Yes, that one. I wish I could see other people. I always don't want to talk to blank screens. I don't know why it's deliberate that we don't have people on camera, but I feel like it gives us connection. It gives us a sense of being together in a room. But thank you so much, Samuel, for inviting me here. I'm really excited. I can't complain about having a busy day. And I will start with a story. In 2010, that's how far the story comes. In 2010, I read a book by Jack Canfield called The Success Principles. And one of the exercises there that we were supposed to do, which you can carry away for yourselves, was to write 101 things that we want to accomplish before we die. And one of the things that I wrote in there, I wanted to be in spaces where I offer career guidance that is known to work to audiences, different audiences. So you can imagine that this morning when I was at that Mukazipreneur KCB event this morning, I was so nicely surprised that the host or the moderator for the event decided to focus me on transition. So I was very, very excited because I realized it's a dream. It's a dream that I had 14 years ago, and I'm living that dream today. So for the younger people on the calls, every dream is valid. Whether it makes sense to anyone or not, that dream just needs to make sense to you. That is where I want to start us off. That the dream only needs to make sense to you, because only you would know who you are. And I want to start there and ask, because I'm talking to different people, if you can help me in the chat bar and answer the question for me, who are you? So that I know who I'm connecting with. Please just type in the chat bar so that I know who I'm talking to this evening, then I can contextualize. Who are you? All eyes are fixed on the chat bar. You can't be in a space that is talking transformation and you can't even tell us who you are. That is how I be in spaces, because I'm a facilitator. I love to connect with people. I want to know who is in the room. KPMG, okay, thank you. Who are you? District local government. Okay, the name I can see. So give me some additional information beyond your name, unless you came on and you are a bot of some sort. HR business partner, happy to see you, Betty. Accountant, trainer, teacher, sports administrator, systems engineer, valuer, and life coach. Happy to meet you, life coach, admin assistant. Okay. Let me tell you who I am. I am an encourager. That's it. For me, I am an encourager. Every other thing is noise around who I am. I am an encourager. Solomon, happy to see you. I love the fact that your socials are very active these days. I always look forward to seeing what is on the socials. I'm also going to be off camera so that I'm not alone in this space. I always find it weird to be talking to myself, because when there are no other faces, it looks like you're talking to yourself, and I find it extremely strange.
Please, Joan, don't go off camera. We are here.
Yes, if I see faces, then I can stay. If everybody leaves me here alone, okay. So the reason I started off by asking you that question, I want you to imagine yourself introducing yourself anywhere without telling us that place. The first person who submitted said they're KPMG. If I ask you to tell me who you are without saying, okay, now I am, okay, now I kind of have rights to say I am the lead coach at Imagine Me Africa, right? Because I founded Imagine Me Africa. It's a dream that I had back then in 2010. It's a reality in 2024. And we are making 11 years next month. So it is something. If you're going to think about transition, you're not transitioning with your title. You're transitioning as you. That is where everything starts. And that's the context that I want us to have. And so my journey into transition started in 2024. If you follow me on LinkedIn, if you've listened to some YouTube things and all, I am sorry, I might sound like a broken record. But why do I sound like a broken record? A story doesn't change. In fact, I'm excited. When I went in 2015, when I went for Jack, I told you I read his book in 2010. I was able to go into his space in 2015. I have all intentions to go and attend his sessions this year. He's going to give his final live training as Canfield. For the last 50 years, that's the life that he has led, and he's going to do the final one. And I said, I am not missing that for anything. And I am glad that the US guys gave me the visa. That was my worry, because the things came in last minute and I was thinking, how am I going to do this? But fortunately, I celebrate the fact that I got the visa. So I'm now assured of travel, God willing. So it's very, very exciting that journey is on. And I was dreaming back in the day, and I said, what if I met this person? And so I went in 2015. And what is exciting for me from a spiritual perspective, I'm Christian, sometimes I spiritualize things. I told myself, this guy is coming to retirement. And I am transitioning from a sense of, I know today we are going to talk about how do you transition from employment to self-employment. I want to abandon that model. I want to leave the self-employment model alone and begin building a business, because it's exciting that we are starting year 11. That means we are starting on a journey of another decade. And I'm sure by the end of that decade, I will not be looking like this. So by the end of that decade, I should have a proper business that is not just reliant on me. But in 2014, is when this whole concept of registering Imagine Me started. All I wanted was to start a program. And that program was called Imagine Me. And I meet this enthusiastic young lawyer. And as we are talking, I'm throwing around things, he's throwing around things. I said, oh, but you need to register a company. I said, really? I never set out to start a company. I just want to have my program. I said, yeah, if you want this whole thing to land, you need to set up a company. So I register a company that we call Imagine Me Africa. So nothing fancy behind starting the company. It was a program. So the first part is Imagine Me as a program. And then because I was tasked to start a company, I slapped on Africa. And when they asked me for 3 alternative names, I said, I'm not giving you 3 alternative names. It's either Imagine Me Africa or there's no company that I'm meant to register. I said, well, I will take it that God doesn't want me to register. Well, God surprised me and that name was available. And so that has been the journey from 2014. So I decided to jump out after a conversation. I've always talked about Alfred, Brian Agaba, who facilitated that conversation of me eventually telling myself, this is how I'm going to go. So yeah, that's the back end story. From dreaming about it in 2010 to now 2025, it's coming to 15 years. A lot has happened therein, from the dreamer that was then having dreams and the one who has nurtured dreams and the version that we have today. That's it, Coach Samuel, as context.
Thank you so much, Joan, for that opening story. Joan is a person of stories, so we are yet to learn more stories as we even proceed through the session. So we have quite a number of people that have joined in through the session, and I like when you asked, who are you? And you told us that we need to start to be able to live or define ourselves beyond our jobs. So I think if sometime some years back, Joan was Joan working with World Vision, and now Joan is here running Imagine Me, but she still defines herself as a comforter, which is something really awesome. So thanks so much, everyone who has joined in. Please share your expectations. In case you have questions, please drop them in there. Joan, today, even as you've shared with us your journey with Camfield and what was for us who are at this other side of the road, we are trying to ask, where does this whole transition come from? Because you were young. Allow me just use that word. You were young. You were not, let's say, the age where people think about the transition. Where did that whole mindset come from that you had to leave your high-paying job and get into the wilderness of figuring out things? So maybe you could be able to just share that moment of how it came to your mind that, okay, I need to set my feet out of this comfort zone and get into the uncomfort zone.
Okay, thank you for that question. First of all, the starting point was just discovering who I was. I told you I'm an encourager, and it is something that I discovered at age 29. I was sending kudos to Victoria Nyanzi when she turned 29, and then she started running that African Sisters Network, saying, oh, I want my sisters to go out there and tell their stories, and boldly and apologetically and every other adjective that she throws there. And I said, maybe this is the magical thing about age 29. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with Manuela Molondo. We've known each other online for a very long time, and yesterday we decided to meet. And when we were sharing our experiences, we realized that for both of us, those things happened at age 29. Now, the reason I ask you, who are you? And it's unfortunate when people can't say who they are, and the only thing that they can think about is, I am. Now, I had a mouthful by the time I was leaving World Vision, because it's the employer that I last worked with. I was a regional community health systems strengthening advisor, overseeing multiple countries under this docket. But that did not define me. It was a title at my bus stop. I've always known myself as an encourager. And that's the gift that I gifted people that I worked with in the workplace. And I think from the time I discovered that I was an encourager, the tag at me was, how am I supposed to use this gift? That was the question that always lingered at the back end, because we are told a gift will open doors for you. And then you're thinking, okay, a gift will open doors for me. What does this mean? Then they'll say, yeah, when you have this gift, when you have this passion, you'll find people that will pay for it. And I'm thinking, how am I going to go into spaces and say, here I am, and I'm an encourager, please come and pay me for encouraging you. I don't know how many of you would pay me if I came to you and I said, pay me. So it's something that always lingered on the back end. But the turning point, again, this one is going to sound like a broken record if you've been listening to me a couple of times or you've watched some videos. There's a time when World Vision had One World Vision Africa, and I was part of that Africa team. And then they said, we are going to restructure. And the restructuring that they were talking about was to split Africa into 3 regions: East, Southern, and West Africa. And in that moment, I was excited. I'm one person who always sees a glass as half full. That's my nature. It doesn't matter. Even during COVID, when COVID hit, I was still seeing the glass as half full, because I was saying, okay, the whole world is sitting at home. What can I do with my time? But when that happened, and I'm excited, and because in that space, we had many of our Kenyan colleagues flying high, we had the Ethiopians flying high. In that moment, my mind was running very fast to think, which Ugandans am I going to be interested in coming up and taking up all these roles that are going to open up in the region? In that moment, we had a colleague that started wailing like, well, they had lost somebody. In fact, these days I say that maybe I'm here to rescue wailing people. It felt like, and then right there in that moment, I had an oikos moment that probably I only recognized it retrospectively. The question that I had was, who prepares the privileged person? And one of the things that became very apparent for me was, yeah, I would listen to motivational speakers and I couldn't connect. For heaven's sake, for crying out loud, I'm living my life off a suitcase. I'm jumping from one plane to another, and everything was always arranged. A shout out to my travel agent these days. I see Rita Gashishiri. If you see a red jacket on on the screen, that's my travel agent. I'm trying to live my life of back in that day so that I have somebody who manages my processes. Even when I was confused about my visa processing, that I was failing to apply for the one I told you about, the US, it's Rita that that supported me. So thank you so much, Rita, for that. But when that question came up and I started trying to think through, who is it that I talk? Who are the people that speak? They don't have the experience that I'm living. So what do you know about somebody leaving a job where almost on a bi-weekly basis, she's out of the country? She does not know what the processes of applying for a visa look like, because somebody in the office is running around with that passport to go and process visas for her. Okay, that was the life that I was living. And so I realized there are things that we do not resonate with. There is always something about the message and the messenger. In fact, I was listening to one of the things that I was listening to with Manuela. We ended up discussing a certain client, and when we were discussing, Manuela shared her experience of, as a young person, she was in that space selling juice. When you look at Manuela and she seems to be high flying, nobody can even fathom that she was busy selling juice to eke out a living. And I mean, these are stories that she tells, so I can share boldly about it. And so she tells me about an assignment that she took up, and I said, oh, very interesting. And I said, I actually applied they asked me for a proposal to do that work as well. I never got the job, but I said, you know what, when I listen to your story, there is no best placed person to have done that job, because you're resonating with the team. And I even asked her, were you able to ask people who worked there at that time? And she said yes. So it was quite interesting to just know how things kind of play out. So for me in that moment, it became very clear that the corporate person, this privileged person, because my whaling colleague was an international colleague. And I'm thinking, if somebody in an international role, if this expert is so distraught, how much more? And I always make fun of that place called Chanamukaka. If you come from Chanamukaka, no hard feelings. It's just one of those places that every time I would hear Chanamukaka, I think it had a way that it would sound in my ears. I would ask myself, how about our project officer in Chanamukaka? How are they going to manage? And therefore, for me, my burden started there to say, I must go out there and pursue this purpose. The form and shape was not very clear. Then I have this program that I'm thinking is Imagine Me. So that time the trigger came and it was like an Abrahamic moment. I can't explain it. I just knew that it was time for me to leave. And so probably the spiritual side of me came through. And I totally believe that the Lord was in that moment, because honestly, Samuel, I have not had your typical sob stories that people get because they've transitioned. It has been an interesting journey of exiting and finding destiny helpers along the way that I have never had. What is very interesting is that some of the people that have come through and have connected with me are people that I didn't know in my past life. I have met them during my journey. Now I see that Coach Ibanda has dropped. I don't know who the other co-hosts are, so that I know where I'm supposed to take the conversation next. He has actually dropped off. Winnie, I see you saying he's not. Let me see. Yeah, he has kind of dropped off. There he is coming back. I was about to begin my own moderation and come up with things. Or you're free to ask questions so that then I can have a thread of what happens. Welcome back, Coach Samuel. Yeah. So that was my journey. So it starts off with discover who you are. Who are you? Don't have second guessing about yourself, because once you have that, then when the triggers for you to go and serve the world with who you are will be much easier, I guess.
I know there's somebody in the audience who is wondering about that who you are aspect, and they are wondering if they actually know who they are. Would you just want to comment? I know this is a big kind of discussion that may need a coaching session. But how was the journey to discovering who you are? I think that is very key, because that is the reason why you transitioned. And for somebody who is on the other side and they're accountants like me, and they are trying to wonder if they know who they are. And also, when you say who you are, what is exactly are you trying to mean? That does it mean that if I'm an accountant, I don't know who I am? Would you want just to expound to add maybe some aspects around there?
Okay, interesting question. And I will start from the part of God is not a designer of confusion. And he has created all of us for a purpose. Let me start from there. I might sound like a preacher. I don't go to the pulpits to preach, but I feel I'm also in the marketplace to support us to understand why we are there. Okay. So for me, it is that point of just understanding what's the nudge that might be on the inside of you. There are tools out there that one can use. My discovery process was simple. I belonged to a total church. Back then it was called Kampala Pentecostal Church. I was in some form of leadership. I think I must have been a section leader. We went out for a retreat. And one of the things that we did, it must have been one of those psychometric tools. And that tool brought out two things. Number one, that I was an encourager. And number two, that I'm a trainer. So if there's anything that I got excited about, this was because, I mean, as a leader in the church space, we are volunteers. So we had gone for this retreat in Kabanyoro, and I live with this gift. Training was very clear. Train, here you go and train. Encouraging was not straightforward, but remember, it is number one. So now when I look at my life, those two things kind of play out. So one of the ways that you can do that and discover self, you can always look up tools that support us on that journey. Clearly, you mentioned, yeah, they can come to a coach and we work through that journey, coach@imaginemeafrica.com. And I don't fear monetizing because I crossed over. I am an encourager. That's what I do on a routine basis in spaces like this. I volunteer my time, but that is where it ends. So try to begin observing yourself and ask yourself, what are some of the things that could be coming naturally to you? That might be where your inclination is. You know, I have seen people start coffee houses and you're thinking, hey, but you've been an MD in a bank. What have you got to do with coffee? And they tell you, oh, by the way, this person is a chef. Okay? So there are those things that you'll be able to think about. And again, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, what are those things that you're passionate about? Because they will begin pointing you into a direction that makes sense. But remember, even when you have discovered that, then there's the other piece where you're going to ask yourself, how are you going to give that gift to the world? When I discovered that I was an encourager and I knew I couldn't go floating around telling people I'm an encourager, pay me, I ended up equipping myself. And this is also going to speak to a concept, a Japanese concept of ikigai, where they say, what are you passionate about? And when you're passionate about it, are you skilled at it? So my passion was encouraging. And now the question is, what is the skill around that? That skill is a skill called coaching. And I said, if this is what I want to do, and who I want to be and be a perfect gift to the world, then I knew I am not going to remain at the basics of, okay, I understand coaching. I know what to do in a coaching session. I said, let me study up to the highest level. So I studied coaching up to the highest level. That is a skill, because there are three things that must meet: the passion, encouragement, the skill, and I'm now training to be a skillful coach. The third one, are people willing to pay for this thing that you're passionate about? So that's the third piece. Now, that third piece, one of the game changers was when a client of mine, we were meeting, and then they asked me, by the way, Joan, now that you're a master certified coach, what is going to be different? Just for your information, master certified coach is the highest level of credential by the International Coaching Federation. Globally, that credential is held by only 5% of the people globally, only 5%. In Uganda, we are only 2 that have that. I was the first one to bag it in 2022. The second master certified coach got hers last year. There's a third one in the pipeline. If she's able to fast track her hours, then probably she will be able to join the team this year or next year. The 2,500 hours that you talked about, I cannot leave this session and say I coached 84 people. This is not coaching, this is a rally. That's why I said I am certified to do team coaching. I am certified to do group coaching. I am certified to do individual coaching. All those things are different scenarios. So people need to understand what is it that they are looking for, what is it that they are talking about. But because coaching has become a fancy title like pastors, everybody wakes up and they are coach. Everybody will wake up and say they are pastor, whether they understand what they are doing or not. So find out that passion. What are you passionate about? Start from there. And then eventually you'll be asking yourself, what's my real purpose? And that purpose is some kind of going to be tagged to whatever it is that you're passionate about. That's how I could, the long-winded way of explaining how you know your purpose or who you are.
Thanks. I think that was really, really very helpful. I think just like you, I also found out that there was something more to me than accounting and finance, and to all those that I've interacted with in my other self can be able now to attest that you can actually be in one profession but have a calling somewhere else. And most of the times our work is defined by what we've studied, and our study is also defined by circumstances. Maybe that's the course that you were given at university. Maybe that is what your parents wanted you to do. But I think continuously finding yourself and understanding what you were created for, I think it's very critical. And I like the way you brought it out, Joan. And I know that many other people can be able to borrow leave. Maybe very similar to the transition, I'll just want to ask, there's one of my mentees who feels they do not like their job and feels the job is not even paying them their worth. They also have a family. They are basically a mother, and they feel the job is just for the bills, but they don't feel aligned with the job, and they feel they can do much in the aspect of business, and they want to try out. They want to be their own boss in the process. Would that be a valid reason to transition to self-employment? And what are some of those aspects that this person needs to be aware of in this journey of transition? Because in this era and age, Joan, of our generation, Gen X, Gen Z, we always want to be independent, and we struggle working with under other people. And we also have this mindset that we can actually do much. We don't want to work into the confines of waking up at 8 in the morning and go to work, and you're leaving at 5, or you're leaving at 9 or 10 for some jobs. Sometimes you feel like the jobs are really draining you down, and you feel like you just want to be self-employed. So from the aspect of just finding yourself, would other reasons that I've just mentioned in there be valid reasons for moving on and starting your own business?
If you're running away from a boss, probably that is also one indicator that you're also going to crash. Because what's the reason for running away from a boss? We also know, of course, that people don't run away from jobs, they run away from their bosses. So there's a disconnect in there. But when you say that the reason you're leaving is to go and be your own boss, let me tell you what that boss does. That boss is the errands guy. That boss is let me actually describe that boss, remembering my earlier days, especially when I had 2016, when I had stepped out, and now there's writing bids, documents, and all. You jump on a border because you're supposed to go and pick a document at KCCA. You finish, you jump on another border. Probably there's something that you're running after to go and pick at URSB. You jump on another border, you have to go to the printer so that you can go and organize the documentation. I think for me, one of the things that I was actually missing in the workplace when I crossed over was the fact that there is no team. So you do not know what you're asking for when you say you want to go and be your own boss. Sometimes I think it feels good to just have another person doing a bit of thinking on your behalf. So don't go into self-employment because you're looking to be your own boss. It will end in tears. Go into self-employment because you have a nudge. You have something on the inside that you feel, I'm going to serve the world. Because I'll tell you something. In order for you, and let me just use an example. If you're in a job currently and your paycheck is 1 million and you're the accountant, you can help me work through the numbers. If you're going to be able to give yourself that 1 million, your business better bring in a turnover of a minimum of 10 million. You need 10 times to bring in 10 times what you want to pay yourself. So 1 million, it means that bring in business of a minimum of 10 million. Because not all that money is coming into your pockets. And sometimes I laugh when we are trying to negotiate for things as consultants. Somebody will think, if I've given you, say, an invoice of 10 million, someone will look at me and think this 10 million is coming into Joan's pocket. Behind us, and I'm telling you, the things that I'm giving you is the fact that maybe because I work for an international organization, in my mind, after doing a bit of running and realizing it is not worth it, I started looking for help. And some of that help might not even make sense for anyone. Because internally, I have somebody who does my accounts. Okay. So when we have a client saying, I need this, then I WhatsApp and say, please generate for us. I will go and develop and send an email and say, so now I'm talking to you who says you want to go and be your own boss and decide whether you're going to do all these roles or you're ready to have a support system around you. This is a paid support system. Then I realized I cannot afford to be there sorting love letters from URA. I have a certified tax advisor that handles that. I was very deliberate in terms of deciding, let my accountant do their things, let my tax advisor be there. Sometimes I feel guilty. You know those moments when something has come through and the person goes and spends the whole day at URA and you're thinking, you mean this retainer that this person is taking has made them stay the whole day at URA and you're feeling guilty about it. Then I realized that I am not very good administratively. I'm a big picture thinker and I'm very fast at execution. So I decided one of the first things that I had was to say, can I have an executive programs coordinator? Because I told you the clients that I deal with, Solomon, I can use you as an example. Solomon works with the NSSF, the guys with our money, the fund. They are part of my clients. I realized somebody in NSSF cannot call me and I begin giving stories. Let them have certain things that this program's coordinator is lifting off me. So somewhat now you end up in a space where, and then I also have a boda guy who I have been using since 2017. Sometimes clients would call me and say, your check is ready. This boda guy now knows how to walk into a banking hall, fill in the papers, do what? Anywhere, I can send him to any place. He's a boda guy. So I had to make him handy to go and be able to get into spaces. So whatever system, the support system that you're going to have, you're going to require that system to support you. It's going to be a paid system. Well, how did I end up there? That's 10 million. So that 10 million, when I come to you, Samuel, and I say, this is my bill, it is not money coming into Joanne's pockets. There is money that I'm going to send back to URA. There is money that I am going, of course, as a consultant, I would earn from it. There is money that is going to go to my tax advisor. There is money that is going to go to the accountant. There is money that the boda guy is using. There is money that is going into bids. Guys, I didn't realize how expensive putting together bids is until I started that process. You take documents that thick, okay? All that is money. Of course, now I have also learned better. I'm in a space called the Business Network International because there's a whole support system there, but it is not free. I have to pay membership fees. So when that 10 million comes, I'm trying to think what portion of this is going into BNI, what portion of this is going into that. So find the right reasons, because before you stabilize, I mean, I have been self-employed since 2016. My company still can't afford me. That is the bitter truth. I have a team that works with me. The company can't afford any of us. So we have to find out other ways of how do we work around that ecosystem in a way that makes sense. We have gone virtual. Me and my team, everyone works from wherever they work from, and then we are able to sort things. Yes.
Wow, wow, wow. And I think you've really painted the picture, because it looks rosy on the other side. And when people see you doing your things and doing all that, I think you've painted a picture that behind what looks rosy, and I know that sometimes they bring in motivational speakers into the picture, that motivational speakers that are the ones that keep telling people to leave their jobs and go and become their own. They actually say, fire your boss and become your own boss. So I just wanted you to paint that
And
picture.
you end up firing yourself. You realize that the boss you need to fire is yourself.
Yeah, and when you make the transition, you get to realize that you actually get many other bosses, because your clients become your bosses. So even when you don't want to wake up early in the morning, like, but I can't be waking up this morning when I'm self-employed, you find that you have that client who needs you at 6 and you have to show up and you have to be there. So quite a number of things. And of course, you expect a salary when you're employed, but here you are the person who is paying, and people are waiting for salaries. So I think a lot has to really be undertaken when somebody is really doing the transition. And on this ground, I want us, Joan, to just hear from you from the aspect of your personal finance at the time when you're trying to transition, because this I think it comes in as very key because for many people, they want to transition, but when they look at, let's say, their paycheck and look at that wilderness that you've already painted a picture, they're a bit afraid. But sometimes they should be moving, because no matter how it looks wilderness, these are people who have a calling. They have either maybe tried out something and it has worked, and they will feel disconnected from their day job and they want to make this move. Could you just speak into the area of personal finance and how does somebody wake up from, let's say, job that is giving them, let's say, even if it's 5 million or 3 million or 10 million, 15 million, and they are now going into the hustle. And in that way, also just want you to, in addition, as you share with that, how important is it for you to start this as more of a side hustle as you build into, as you transition? Because actually our conversation is managing transition. So for some people, they think of a transition as a jump. So when say fire your boss, you give your boss that letter and say, I'm no longer your employee, I'm going to be my own boss. So how is that transition happening, even when it comes to aspects of your finance? And even as you come through, there are quite a number of comments that have come here and really much appreciated. We are over 93 that have joined here and quite a number of comments coming through. Let them come through. We're going to have a question and answer. So if you have a question, make sure that you can also be able to just put it in the chat box. Over to you, Joan.
Wow. First of all, don't fire any boss. You don't know when you will need them. One of the things that have continued to fuel my finances, my first boss at New Vision, I talked about World Vision. My first boss was at New Vision. My first boss at New Vision connected me to the Women in News program, which Women in News program has fed me from 2019. Because, yeah, I continue giving of that space. So don't run away from, I tell people, have some emotional intelligence. You don't know where you're going to find this person. Whatever it is, make sure that you're not burning bridges. Leave when you know that when things fail the other side, I can go back comfortably. Don't go showing off, saying, I have fired this one and all. What if you end up in that place and figure out that things are not working? But finances are real. And let me start off by debunking a myth. When you see us consultants out there, we have a face. My face is very clear: employment transition coaching. One of the things that I know how to do, and I do so well, is strategic planning, it's strategy development. And I do quite a bit of consultancy around that. I never talk about it. Because people know us, they will come to me and say, actually last year, I think I had 2-3 big projects on strategy development. So I went into spaces and they paid me well. So when I say that my company can't afford me, the question would be, then how do you survive? My other skills. Remember, I asked you, who are you? Samuel, because you're an accountant, if you wake up tomorrow and you say the transformational professional space has grown so big, that's where you want to be, that doesn't stop you from being that accountant. Somebody will come to you and say, can you help me set up a system? You're not going to chase them away. You get it? Because you know you realize, okay, this money is not coming in, but you're not going to come out there telling us about how you're doing accountancy. Then you're confusing us, because in the consultancy world, in the self-employment world, you should be known for something. You should not be known for multiple things. And I'll tell you a quick story. You said I'm a person of stories. When I stepped out and I realized that, oops, what is this going to look like? I wanted to have something that would give me that daily income. You know, we have a lot of theory, guys, we have a lot of theory, and nobody has better theory than an employed person. You have a lot of theory of how things can do. They've told you, no, you need something that is going to bring in income every day. I went into juicing. I went into juicing. Somewhere I sold juice and a liter was going for 20,000 and we're not adding water. Okay? We're not adding water to that juice. But that time, remember, imagine me, Africa has taken off. I'm on Facebook and everybody knows me for Imagine Me. And I introduced this thing called juicing. The Imagine Me brand suffered because all of a sudden, everybody, first of all, juice is an easier concept to learn than an abstract concept like coaching. I have worked so hard to get this name here. Then I've brought in something else that draws away the attention until a friend of mine, an accountability partner of mine, told me, Joan, stop hoarding those things. And I said, let this juicing business die a natural death somehow. So I left it, I pulled out, people would come to me and I would direct the traffic elsewhere. They would come to me, and that friend of mine where I would direct the traffic, she's still doing a great job at the juicing business. But for 9 months, I calculated, for 9 months, I struggled to get people back into the picture of Imagine Me because now they were seeing me as Juice Secrets. Hey, we had the juice, okay? Very nice, juice. So what is taking me to that? I was trying to fix my finances. Now I was fixing those finances the wrong way. You can have your other side business. Don't be the face of that business. Find another person to be the face for that business so that people can know you for being the employment transition coach that you are. I love strategy, and unless the strategy direction that I'm doing has a coaching component, then I'll write about it. But I cannot get out there and today I'm telling you I'm doing juice. Tomorrow I come and I'm telling you I am baking. Then the next day I am the one making beads. And the next time I don't know I'm doing what. You're confusing your followers and so you're meddling your finances. The skills that you have are all skills that you can monetize. So they're still going to give you, because your business, the 10,000 hour rule, believe it or not, will work. And remember that day you leave your employer, Solomon, the day you leave the fund, sorry, I can only use examples of people that I know. Solomon works for the fund. The day he steps out of the fund, he will start calculating his other 10,000 hours because nobody knows you anymore. The reason they are coming to you as Solomon of NSSF, they want something from the fund. They think they can call you and you fix their problem very fast. The moment you step out, you're starting on a different journey. And that's why I say, when you're in employment, be nice to the people who are on this other side. They're the ones who are supposed to support you in terms of navigating. Now, if you're the kind of person who you're always getting the person to be a thinking partner on that, you don't give feedback, you don't do what, and you come over, do you think you're going to get the same support as somebody who is, because for me, you'd rather tell me, you know what, we are trying to pursue this thing, but it's not working. But you've been pursuing something, you've discussed it in 2022, 2023, 2024, it's 2025. When you come out and you say, Joan, I would want to work with you, in my mind, you have painted a certain picture. So the finances, one, before you cross over, make sure you're not in debt. Let's first clear that. Don't cross over when you're in debt. First clear your debts because this other side is going to have its whole dynamics. Clear your debt. Save some money that can at least take care of certain emergencies. Start from there because this road is not clear. Sometimes we will do jobs. You will do a job and you might be paid immediately. It might take you time. For some, there are some entities which have bureaucratic things that you might finish an assignment today and after 90 days, you've not received your payment. Meanwhile, people are looking at you and maybe even the person who received, I love lawyers, they talk about a fee note. So they are looking at that fee note and maybe the fee note is 20 million, but that 20 million is taking 4 months to come through. How are you surviving? Your other skills should come in. And therefore, learn to monetize every other aspect that you have. Keep your networks afloat. One of the things that came through, I told you about the Ichigai concept: passion, skills, payment. The first 2 months, I remember, and I think I've seen Teddy asking, well, how long did it even take me to get people paid? One of the things that happened when I stepped out, I noticed that, I stepped out. Like I said, I was following my passion. My passion is encouraging. I'm a people developer. I get into that space. Then it occurs to me that, wait a minute, passion doesn't put food on the table. And I remember I was having a conversation with God. I normally say it was a conversation because I wasn't in a prayer closet. I was just sitting in the living room and I'm saying, but God, this passion, these things of yours, passion doesn't put food on the table. And for those of you who want to understand what faith is and what living a spiritual life is, sometimes those moments are very dear to me. That evening, the former country director of World Vision Uganda, in the morning, I was talking and I'm busy saying, God, this passion doesn't put food on the table. In the evening, a country director of World Vision calls me. And when they call me, the person is telling me, oh, by the way, Joan, I have people here who are looking for a communications consultant. Now, those of you who see me making noise on LinkedIn, you know where that comes from. I have a communications background, so coming up with content is not a big deal. I will always have content. And then I tell him, Gilbert, I am not looking for a job. And say, no, they don't want somebody in a job. It's a consultancy. I said, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. Then immediately I remembered my conversation in the morning. So he tells me, okay, tomorrow by this time, if they haven't called you, please let me know. Evening that time, yes, they hadn't called. And in that moment, who was he with? The country director of Child Fund. These guys are always networked. And the country director of Child Fund tells me at that time, please come to my office tomorrow. I go into that office to go and meet a certain team because he's not going to make the decision by himself. And the first person I see is somebody that I had done consultancy work with when they were still at the Management Sciences for Health. So in that moment, I know I am done. It is dusted because at MSH, we had done a very good job. So whatever opportunities you have, give it your best, give it 150%. Don't give it 90%. 90 is not good enough. You do not know where you're going to meet these people. So like I've said, the relationship you're going to have to manage these relationships, the work that you're doing is what is building your reputation. These are the people you're going to find on the other side making decisions in another entity. So you always need to remember that life is a web. Life is a web. So all these things are threading together and you do not know where you're going to meet somebody. Today, the person is reporting into you. The next time you go, you're going to find them on the other side as the ones that are taking you in. I mean, you know, Coach Samuel, that recently I was celebrating Rita Cabanyoro, who is the country director for Action Against Hunger. Now, that lady, by the time I worked in World Vision, in fact, I enjoyed the story because I said, oh, now I understand why she always acted this way. It was a deliberate move. By the time I was working with her, I was already in a regional role. And she was providing some form of admin support, accountancy support in a grants office, then eventually moved into the finance director's office. So I could relate with that story. Today, I mean, if we are to try and command who has a big followership, it is her, because now she has a title that is more meaningful than me telling people I'm a lead coach. She's a whole country director, for crying out loud. Yes, I always just have stories to respond to simple questions.
If there's one story that I'm so surprised to hear is the Jewish story. And I think I've watched quite a number of your webinars, and you hadn't mentioned about the Jewish story, but I think it's a privilege that we're able to get that. I know the journey to transitioning is not easy. And I think one of the things that I think you mentioned, you need to have the right reasons why you're transitioning, especially unless you are actually forced out of employment, like some of our friends. You need to have the right reasons, because these are the reasons that keep you going in those times of struggle. And I think, again, the greatest lesson I think that you also share is let people know you for something. I think within our when it comes to our personal brands, we continuously try to figure out what are we putting ourselves there. And sometimes we're in the confines of our previous employer because that is what people have known us for. And I think if there's one thing that I also learned, especially from your journey, is you made the shift from whatever you were doing and now into coaching, which is a totally new field, something that you were trying to develop. But right, you're here. So I want us to now speak to somebody who lost their job. They did not have the opportunity to plan their way out, or they actually do not have a job right now. Either they have been searching and they feel they need to try out self-employment. What are some of those mind shifts that someone needs to be able to now turn to? And I also understand you're one of those that are helping professionals turn their expertise into consultancy. And I think you ran one of the master classes, and also you help people in that area being able to identify their unique selling niche, where they have expertise, and be able to leverage on that to create something. Could you just speak into that person who could?
Okay, I hope it is not my side. Can anyone hear me, or is it
Just starting from out of the who just got that announcement and they hadn't planned? Pardon?
No, sorry, you froze for a bit,
Yes.
so I was wondering whether it was me. Yes.
Okay. So what would you be your advice, and how would somebody start from that aspect where it just came? It's not something that they really planned for, and even for the search of the job, they're not sure if they'll find a job, so they want to try out self-employment.
Okay. Let me speak to the emotional person. Finish crying, because the crying is going to be part of the process, right? Cry and pack the tears and no, now I have finished crying. I have to pick myself up, because I think we always need to process the emotions and that phase. Acknowledge that your cheese has gone. Who moved my cheese? You remember that little book, Who Moved My Cheese? Acknowledge that the cheese is gone. And then look internally and ask yourself, what are the things that I have? You're going to do your own SWOT, the way we do it for companies. What are the strengths that I have? So your strengths, of course, are also going to cover your entire skill set, the things that you have done, the things that you have been paid for. Then you're going to also look at things that you know you can do very well, but maybe you've never monetized them. Because what we are looking for here is income has gone and you want to replace it. It's replacement income we are looking at, because clearly when you leave, that is what is going to happen. For some privileged jobs, sometimes what we are looking at, one of the things that I've also come to realize, for people who have some of their privileged positions, it's not the paycheck that they miss, it's the perks that they miss. You've been driving a company car, they've been giving you fuel. For our friends in the telco, you do not even know how they load what, because everything is on there, okay? And so once you have realized that all that is gone, you're going to have a conversation with yourself and ask yourself, what is it that I have? And part of that would also say, talk to people who know you very well, people who you have interfaced with, and ask them, what do I have? One of the things that, by the way, Coach Samuel, that I'm now using very well, that I'm beginning to get paid for, is the moderation skills. Because one of the things that has come out is because of my coaching, I listen differently. I don't have premeditated things. So when I'm having my panel, we have an understanding of a theme, and whatever I'm going to ask them about is going to come from what they are telling me. So no premeditated things. We show up, and because of realizing that that is coming through, I realize, oh, by the way, I'm using coaching skills. So whatever it is that you have, the moment you know that you have it, then you're going to ask yourself, how do I monetize this? Now, whatever you're monetizing, remember, it is replacement income. Assuming you have lost 1 million, your question is going to be, how do I get this 1 million back? because you must first figure out how you're going to replace that before you talk about any other things. And so you're asking yourself, am I starting my own business? Am I going to look up people who have maybe consultancy firms and I work with them? Because starting out is not easy, by the way. It's very easy to go making noise. You go and try out things. Then you realize, oh my goodness, it's not what I thought, okay? Think about your networks. And please, those of you who are still in employment, be present for your networks. Don't wait to look for people when you are in need. Okay? Don't wait to look for those people when you're in need. Just figure out how you're going to take people out for coffee. Have that coffee. I mean, we go and even sit at Serena in that coffee terrace. You might even drink water at the coffee terrace. You don't have to spend an arm and a leg to buy coffee. You can ask for water, but connect with people so that you're in their faces, you're in their brains. If you come to me and you're telling me, oh, by the way, do you remember we used to work with World Vision? And I'm thinking, I left One Vision in 2016. So now you're reminding me about how many years I have moved on. I have new networks. I have new relationships. You're the last person on my mind. Make sure you're in people's minds. So be strategic. So now that person, the thing that you need to look, unfortunately, it is what it is, Samuel. Whenever you're going to make money, you're going to invest. Let me put it as plain as that. Whenever you're going to make money, you're going to invest. You must have seen the other person who normally talks about, who celebrates the fact that coaching worked for her, is somebody who is in the corporate governance space that I was celebrating recently. And she's been doing corporate governance for a number of years, but things were not shifting. So that class that says turn your expertise into a thriving consultancy, we start our first session in October last year. In December, was it the first week of December, she holds a class, and that class is full. And it was a conference. I think it was labeled a conference. And in that conference, there's a client, just a client, one single client, that sponsored 27 participants. All of us, whatever we have, there is a market there that is ready for you, and there is somebody willing to pay. The challenge is you want to actually figure out and say, what is the face? Now I see a Julia Semaganda here. You say, I want to know that I want Julia Semaganda is going to sign up. That Julius is only a persona out there. You don't know them, that they exist. The moment you package that thing of yours to appeal to the persona of Julia Semaganda, 20 of them are going to show up. And those 20 of them might come through a single client who decides to sponsor. That very person, that was December. Now I'm giving you a live example of, in October, we started the classes. We are completing the classes next month. So that has been the period. So December, we have a class. Last week, she hosts an event, Women on Board Symposium, and 110 people are in the room. What has changed? It is still the same package. I mean, it's the same product. The thing is, she finally carved out where her passion is. We are now appealing to passion. She has the skill of corporate governance. Her passion is with women. And so she's packaged something of women on boards. When she comes out, she comes alive than talking about great things. Now, that replacement income, that's where the science comes in. To begin asking yourself, so I used 1 million as an example to say, do I come up with something that when they call me, I'm going to charge them 1 million? And so I'm going to spend the month looking for this one thing to be paid 1 million? Or do I want to set up something that is 50K and therefore I need 20 pieces to make the 1 million? Do I do 10 things of 100K to make the 1 million? Do you follow the chain of thought? And remember now, on top of that, URA needs money. So it's no longer 1 million that you're looking for. So all those are things that you're going to think about. Now, pricing is a whole different thing. I don't think I can handle it here. It's one of those things that feel free to reach out to me and I charge you to learn how to price. But yeah, because what you're looking for really is that replacement income. And that's where you need to become sober and decide. And remember that 1 million, now you can decide whether it is just the accounting that you're going to do, or you're going to remember that, oh, by the way, I also facilitate. Let me put myself there. Or if you're like Solomon, you're a good public speaker, you say, let me tell people that I can also MC, but then let them pay me for the MCing, because you're desperately looking for your 1 million. If you're not desperate enough to replace that, you're not going to design anything. It's only desperate people that design stuff.
Wow, thank you so much, Joan. I think that is really insightful. And friends, if you're learning something, please just drop it in the chat box. We want to make sure we know your greatest takeaway from this session. Such insightful, Joan. I'm really, I know that there's a time you invited me for one of your sessions, and you said that you're glad you took a bet on me. So I'm also glad I invited you to speak to this session, because and the audience can really agree. Please, let's have some virtual claps for Joan, because she's really sharing from the heart, and she's really sharing from her experience, like somebody who has done this for 10 years. And she has even given you practical examples, because most of the times, Joan, we are like, I know, Joan, it worked for you. Can it work for another person? And I think there's somewhere you mentioned and said everything is actually by design. So it's not like something like out there that is really hard. So thanks for the hand claps. That shows that we are following the session, and thank you so much. Even for our YouTube audience who are following on YouTube, we really want to acknowledge your being here. Joan, I want us to just also just speak into. I know you're the author of Corporates at Crossroads. And I think the subtitle says, knowing that your job isn't internal and acting on that knowledge. So I want you to speak to somebody who is employed. They have a paycheck. Everything is going on well. They have even never thought that anything could ever land in terms of circumstances. And when is that point in time that somebody should be able to think about their next move? Is it that there are certain people who are just like you, who are called for something more, that should think about this? What if I have my job and I'm really comfortable, I'm earning my money? Would this be a conversation? Would I even think about this? But also in that line, I also want, I know that we could have some people who maybe would be in their advanced ages, and they're in terms of their career, they are in the evening years of their career, and they're trying to wonder if this thing of starting a business is for them. So let's just start from somebody who is in the job. Even as you wrote that book, I know you had thoughts, you had somebody at the back of the mind. Why is it important to think about employing yourself, even when you've not lost your job? You're not part of you said funds freeze. You basically have that paycheck. Why is it really very important that we need to be able to think about transitions as part of our day-to-day work?
The answer is in the kicker, because it's not eternal. Your employer is not your mother. Your employer is not your father. Okay, that is where it all starts. But also, even if they were your mother, even if they were your father, aging is a fact of life. How you want to age, that is entirely up to you. Okay, how you want to age is entirely up to you, and how you want to transition. I normally say, okay, it's okay for you to work up to age 60, right? Because that is the time that officially retirement would probably be there. And so it is different things for your different organizations. For some people, it's 55. For some, it is 60. For those of us who are self-employed, until probably your bones are giving way. I have somebody who, you saw me chewing things. I have somebody who gives me supplements. And she normally says, you get to an age and the bones are saying pakata. So maybe for a self-employed person, they're waiting for pakata bones before they can do anything. But you should always plan. And I think for me, the best way to look at that planning is not just because the job might come to an end or not. It's just the understanding that we need to think about the future broadly. Knowing that, okay, I can wake up one morning and I've hit 60 and there is no job. So how do I work around this thing? And so that's one aspect. The second aspect, I've also come across people, it's very interesting that when employers are planning, the tendency is to plan on the side. And for the HR people on call, please, it's not enough for you to think about the finances. That is okay. But there's a time I went to one of the places that I have had to facilitate was in Bank of Uganda. And somebody one time got up and said, but Joan, I have all the money that I need in retirement. Okay. Some of the money even my grandchildren will enjoy. My question is, when I wake up every day, what am I waking up to? That question should be a question that we are all thinking about on a daily basis, unless unless you want to have an earlier appointment with your maker to say, for me, God, I'm okay. Take me at 40. I'm fine. But if you're one of those that says, oh Lord, the word says that I can live up to 70, 80 when I'm stronger, and others saying, and I want to live up to 120, better plan for the 60 years, better plan for the 40 years, better plan for the 30 years. Because nobody thought, I mean, right now, I mean, the Supreme Court has thrown out President Trump's thing, but we don't know where that is going to end. That shaking that you can think that the US mission, people can wake up and they're being shaken. So if they're that shaken, what makes you think that your thing will not shake? I mean, when COVID happened, the first thing that some of our clients just said, we just received emails of LPO cancellation. So even on this other side, by the way, we also get the shocks. I have a colleague, I was reaching out to them and they said, hey, 75% of our funding has been coming from USAID projects. So you can imagine, and they are saying it is painful, but I have to lay off people. And so that becomes a thing that we live with, whether you're in self-employment or you're employed. Think about the fact that you wake up and that job is no more. Either your energies have faded or you have hit the retirement age, and Solomon's funds show us that after all, people wipe out their savings in 2 years when they transition and retire. So think about what kind of retirement you want to have. For me, one of the things that inspired me, having been the founding president of the International Coaching Federation, I was jumping into meetings and I would see these people who are seemingly in their 70s, late 70s, moderating and facilitating meetings. And I said, I want to age like them. I want to be at that age, and they're telling me, come and moderate meetings. So that's what I'm positioning myself for.
Wow, thank you so much. I think you're doing quite a number of things, and we can see. I think you mentioned another transition that you just made recently. Now from being self-employed now to set up. I think they say working on your business, something like that.
Work
Yes.
on your business, not in the business. Now, for you who are coming into self-employment is a typical scenario of you working inside your business, because you must be there to run whatever it is. You must be there to do things. You're working in your business. Now, that's also a dangerous way to live, of being there at all the time. That is what is happening. Yes, it can have interesting dividends, but we need people in order to grow our businesses. And it's a whole ball game. And for me, it was always a thing of, you don't learn coaching by osmosis, because I'm building a coaching business. And I realize you can't learn coaching by osmosis. But now I am glad that we have programs that we are putting out there. And unfortunately for us, God has blessed that journey. People are embracing them. So I don't have to sit around and go around telling people I am the coach at Imagine Me Africa. It will be a whole pool with similar skills and all those different. Sometimes you can buy into a brand. That is also another thing. But buying into that brand means you still have to invest. The thing is, if you really want to grow your money, grow your profession, grow whatever growth you're going to have, there is no shortcut. You're going to put in money. Now, the level of investment is likely to be commensurate with the level of reward. It is what it is. When you invest $10,000 in something, the way you're going to think about that investment is going to be different from somebody who has invested 100K. You can leave 100K on the table and probably won't feel it. $10,000, you will feel it. So your brain will work supernaturally hard. And that's why for some of us, pricing is not an issue, because I have been out there. I normally tell people that one of the things that made me become comfortable charging for coaching, I had finished my training, paid this academy money for my training, and now I'm preparing for my credentialing process. And behold, every mentorship session was $400. And I needed a minimum of 5. So that's $2,000. Okay, you finished training, you have accumulated your hours. Now I need to prepare for the International Coaching Federation. So what makes you think that me, who is paying to grow my muscle, I'm paying $400 for a single session, you want to come to me and say, please coach me for 100,000? How is that going to happen? The math is not mathing like you younger people tell us. The math is not mathing. To grow my muscle and sit before a mentor at their feet and they scrutinize the recording. By the way, to get that mentoring recording, I don't submit. I do like several of them, and I'm thinking, this is my best recording. Let me take it to my mentor so that then they can mentor me based on that. $400. Now, for you, you're thinking you want to come to me and say 100K. I'm going to be thinking and saying, okay, 100K and 400. And I'm thinking, because my mind had to shift and I had to take those sessions seriously, because I know one session, $400. I must complete these things with the requirements for ICF. So it is what it is. So for some of you, when you're grappling with a bit of the pricing, it is because, first of all, if your mental capacity is telling you I can only go for things of 50K, also better be ready with your services of 50K. That is all that you can offer, because like will attract like. You cannot say that you're investing 50K in yourself and then you want to charge people 500,000. They won't pay it to you. It is as simple as that. So 50K, then also come up with your products of 50K. 100K, come up with your products of 100K. For me, at that $400, I can go to an institution and say, give me your C-suite, and I coach them. Because if I went to a C-suite and I told them now my coaching fees are 100,000, actually they're going to question and ask, do they know what they are doing? That's most likely going to become the question. Because they know when they go onto the ICF website, they're going to find people who are actually charging $1,000 for 30 minutes. So they will be asking, what is missing? But you don't just wake up and again charge that when you don't have the capacity. At least now I can go and I float my CV and I say, oh, by the way, the first master certified coach in Uganda, because yes, we are many coaches, right? Samuel, we are many coaches. Now, when I go with you into a space and we say, okay, tell us, then you can go and say, I host my platforms, they bring in so many people. Then I can go and say, oh, by the way, I'm a master certified coach, the first one in the country. We are 5% globally. You see how what that is doing? It is kind of painting a certain picture. But it has been a journey. It has been painful. You people, training is not easy. It has been painful for me to size up your conversation. And this is what is very interesting. A shorter conversation demands more muscle from you than it's okay. You can sit for 1 hour and 2 hours and you're talking. The C-suite do not have that time. They want an impactful conversation in 20 minutes. Now, if your average coaching time is an hour, is 2 hours, what are you going to do for this person who needs 20 minutes? So for me, I go back and I train because I want to have an impactful conversation in 20 minutes. And therefore, I should charge for that muscle. So don't just copy. By the way, this is a true story, Samuel. I've had people who would come to my inbox and say, so Joan, how much do you charge for this? So are you copying and just pasting Samuel's price? You do not know what is informing Samuel's price. Come up with a pricing that resonates with you. And for me, those are the conversations that I have with people that come to me to coach them about pricing. We sit down and come up with a pricing that, because you yourself must believe in the price that you're giving out. Because you might also put out a price and you actually don't believe it. Already the vibes are not touching. So every time you mention the price, nobody is paying, because even you yourself do not believe in what you're pricing.
Wow. I think that is really insightful, especially on the aspect of pricing. And I've seen a comment here from Coach Diana about investment. I remember her sharing about her investment into the John Maxwell certification, and I was like, wow, this is what it takes to really get yourself invested in there. Joan, I want you to just I don't know what your thoughts could be. I think I was watching one of your videos while you were at NTV, and I think you jumped out of your workplace and went and made that presentation on NTV. For somebody who is employed, would you recommend them to transition through a side hustle? I know we already mentioned something like this, but I just want you to give a focus onto that aspect of transition. And I know we have quite a number of people who are running their businesses as side hustle. And believe me, it's a struggle because they are busy and they can't create time. They have employees that are taking all their money, and they're wondering whether it is worth it, if that is the best way to transition, because they're trying to create some cushion such that when they move, it's a bit much easier. I know you ran a number of master classes as in your area at the time when you're still at working with World Vision, and you did quite a number of things to test your idea before you made the move. Could you just mention that? Is it something that you believe in? And I just saw one of my HRs, Stella Mbekeka, who was my HR at Save the Children. Usually employees struggle to balance their work with the side hustles, yet it's an avenue that they're looking at as a way to transition. What would be your thoughts around that area?
I think I know that sometimes we get endeared towards, but these days, the more I think about this thing called side hustle, the more it just shows that you can never put your energies into it. So probably let's even stop to calling it as a side hustle and look at it as a transition project. Because if it's a side hustle, yeah, it is what it is. If you're seeing it as something that has potential, then you're going to put your mind and your mind to and soul to it. And so let's stop talking about side hustles and probably talk about transition projects, so that then I am planning this thing so that when the day comes for me to step out, this is what I am stepping into. Because some of the things that I had to do when I was in employment was to just readjust myself. Like I told you, I was in an international role, and I had been with colleagues who I think I was the most flexible on the team. I'm saying, oh, yes, this time, yes, I'm okay. Oh, this time. Then, and yet I had colleagues who would say, by the way, on this day, it's my birthday. And sorry, I can't be around because I'm going for a birthday celebration. And I'm thinking, the Ugandan in me, how do you tell people you're not going to be around because of a birthday? Thanksgiving is a big thing in the US. So everybody is telling you, please plan all your things. By this time, this is what is going to happen. Then I had a colleague that was quite interesting. She would say, I check my emails. She was very disciplined. I check my emails at 1 p.m. her time. And she said, for all of you who are on my team, ensure that you send your emails just around that time. When you are left with maybe 5 minutes to 10 minutes to, because when you're in an international role, you can receive 1,001 emails. So she would get on there and scrutinize the emails very fast, and she knows these ones are very urgent and very important regardless, because you're part of her team. So she will have to check them. Then she has this, and when that hour is gone, hey, the world will not come to an end because they've not read your email. That email will wait until tomorrow. So that is how things would work. But this thing that you're trying to transition into, make it part of your 24 hours. I think one of the concepts that I talk about in our corporates at a crossroads is those 24 hours. If you think about the fact that we claim that we work for 8 hours, okay, you even say that yours are 10 hours. And then we claim that we sleep for 8. So 8 and 8 is 16. What is happening to the other 8 hours? Now, those 8 hours might mean maybe I'm going to be in traffic for 1.5 hours going, those of us who live in villages, and 1.5 hours coming back. Those are 3 hours. Ask yourself, if I have 3 hours in the car, what am I using these 3 hours for? Because we are told, if you spend an hour every day on a subject for 5 years, you end up a subject matter expert, regardless of the field. Just 1 hour every day. Now, for you, you're having 3 hours in the car every day. So it is up to you whether in those 3 hours you're going to listen to Nawolovu, or you say, let me go and listen to Coach Samuel's YouTube things, or I'm interested in the subject of coaching, let me listen. So some of these things that we claim, it is just rewiring our thought process and say, okay, this is what is happening. I have a friend, I actually kind of, I talked about her today. She was a deputy chief of party before she eventually transitioned into her own serial entrepreneurship things. She used to have a very busy job and she was running a supermarket. At some point, she was running 2 supermarkets. She would leave her job, get to Namgongo, get into that supermarket and review the sales for that day and look at the cameras to review what was going on in the business. So this thing that you know that you're going to transition into, that's why we talk about employment transition. Give it the time that it deserves. Incidentally, that time is going to be time that you have to create because you're not going to encroach on your employer's time. It is these other ghost hours, actually, yeah, I've remembered, I think I called them ghost hours. It is these ghost hours that we want to use. It is 8 and 8, and I don't care how many hours you're going to tell me you have, even if you end up with 2. Worst case scenario 1, I have told you one of those little books that I read tells you 1 hour every day on a subject for 5 years, you become a subject matter expert. So choose how you want to transition. And we can all be masters at giving excuses. The people who will have a breakthrough are the ones who are going to pursue their dreams courageously and with bold conviction.
Thank you so much, Joan. Team, in case you have a question, you could be able to, I'm going to give an opportunity to 1 or 2 people. In case you have a question, you could raise up your hand and then I'll be able to give you an opportunity to be able to ask question to Joan. We have any?
Okay, I see some questions here. This is Baguma Francis. The work we do gives a reputation, therefore we give it best, blah, blah, blah. I saw a question there. What is your motive when you wake up every day? Incidentally, me, I'm walking in purpose. So I no longer have a question about what it is that I am doing. I found purpose. I found a name for it. I get excited about it every day. This morning, I had to leave home by 6 a.m. because I had to be at 4 Points. I was going to engage. And after that, I was coming back to do a coaching call online. Then I had somebody walk in. We had that conversation and I had to chase them away like 15 minutes to time. And I told them I'm going on a call. That's what purpose does. You're energized all the time. At least that's how I normally feel, that I'm always energized, even when things can sometimes be slow. I saw another question. It was from Teddy. I think I have this is who? Vian, I think I have a problem with networking because I sometimes see it as familiarity. Now, I told you that I'm part of a Business Network International. There's a formula that I learned there, VCP. Visibility is a starting point in networking. Credibility, if I wasn't credible before Samuel, he wouldn't bring me here. Profitability might simply mean that somebody is on this call and they end up paying me a service because Samuel has lent me his trust. He has lent me his space. So those of you that now the ones who, for example, would get me off here and say, I'm going to pay for your service. Guess what? You're not paying me for that service because you know me and you believe in what I have said. Most likely you're saying, if Samuel could believe in Joan and bring her here, there must be something. So you need to understand that it is a process. Incidentally, in order for a relationship to, and this is research that was done by Dr. Ivan Meisner, the founder of BNI and those other groups, because he's a university don, they discovered that in order for a relationship to turn into profitability, it takes an investment of 200 hours. Now, for you who is doing hide and seek and tipping a relationship, and you want to wake up and think that somebody is going to get, the only thing that they can do is to give you a quick jig of, say, 100K. Oh, come and do this for us. Here is your fuel refund. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who can sit back and say, come, let's work on this thing. Here is $15,000. Here is $50,000 for an assignment. That's profitability. I'm looking for the other questions. If you've seen them, please.
Some of them are just comments. But Joan, what was the discussion all about? Okay, I think that what was, but I think I just see comments. Kifuze Timothy says, saying thank you, Coach Joan. Stella Mbekeka, thanks for the kind words. Like I indicated, Joan, there are some HR people who are comfortable seeing you playing into your purpose, even while you're doing your work. I think that is we need to be able to really acknowledge those people that are able to help when it comes. There is a hand from Adrian as I try to look for another question. And I think before Adrian comes in, I saw Agre unmute himself earlier on. Agre, was it a question or it's in error? Then we'll have Adrian come through.
Yes, good evening, Coach Samuel and the rest of the team, and our dear guest, Joan. Mine is on the side of side hustles as pertains employees. I have an experience, me personally. I started up my side hustle, but management wasn't that good. And I happened to lose something close to 11 millions. But eventually I was able to raise again. Sometimes management, because the role which I was in, I was working with the bank that time, but I was always busy all the time. You enter the bank from 7 a.m. in the morning, then you are away at 9 p.m. in the night. So that time, you are giving the other job all your time, and you don't have time for your other side hustle. So sometimes management perturbs us. And also, Samuel, I have a question. Which small businesses can someone start up and maybe they eventually pick up? I know things are a bit tough, but because I'm already into self-employment, but there are those service businesses which I just want to clone that. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you so much. John, do you want to answer that, or we have Adrian's question as well?
Let me answer that very fast. And thank you, and sorry for the loss of the 11 million. Now, there is nobody that is going to make money that will not lose money. One of the things I learned much earlier in those Kiyosaki books, the subject of money is a money that rather a subject that I love. My library has more books on money than any other thing. And one of the things that I came across those books was where he says, in order to make, you need to get to a point where you look at making money as a game. That you're going to make money, but you're also going to lose money. And to share something that John Maxwell says that, sometimes we lose, rather sometimes we win, other times we learn. So when it feels like I have lost 11 million, rather than focus on the fact that the 11 million is gone, ask yourself, what's the learning here? And I think for me, the story was a bit different because after all, the things that I trade in a luxury service, that's what I want to call coaching. Somebody must be in a certain headspace to realize that they need this service. So I used most of my time to design the programs that I was going to run. So you see, there is not real money that is going in, but I can monetize the effort that I'm putting in, not real money. And then we had weekend programs we used to run. I think at some point we were running power breakfast events, and those we are running every 2 months. Now, in that moment, I'm testing proof of concept. When we step out, will people come in? When you step out, will people come in? That is what is happening. And we ran the first event when I was still in employment. And that event attracted 120 people. The very first one that we did as a dine and dream, it attracted 120. And I knew, okay, this is proof of concept. There was zero sense of business, to the extent I always look back and laugh that people paid 200K, and the notebook that I gave them, it was a leather notebook. It cost us 40K. So that's how zero knowledge of running business was. Now, and then agree, the other thing is, and here I will be very clear, I am a certified Bank of Uganda trainer. One of the things that we are told, we should never sit there and recommend, go and invest in this. I don't want you to go and say, the reason I lost my money, Joan came and assured me that vanilla works. These days it's has avocado works. The question is, do you have time for this thing that you're going into? So I think for me, if you realize that it was going to require a deeper level of effort and presence, don't go in for it at that time. You're not ready. Do some things where you know you can ease yourself into the process. You can ease yourself into the process. And don't get also caught up in analysis paralysis, because then nothing will ever run. If I sat here and I started telling you how much money I have lost along the way, probably I would not be here. But I have learned to understand that all that is part of the school fees that we pay. And I tell people, if you still have a paycheck, that's the best time to try out things. Because when it doesn't work, you still have a paycheck to fall back to. When you're this side, you lose the money and you're not even sure when the next paycheck is coming through. And when we start employing, then you begin realizing that you're almost paying yourself last. But now recently, I was introduced to the concept of profit first, where with every, it's a cash flow management tool that with every assignment that comes in, put aside money into the different baskets that you need, so that then you know any dry season, this is what is happening. And I learned something that there is also a business owner's pay different from a salary. So I said, okay, for the last 10 years, I did not pay myself business owners something. Now that I'm going into this space of building a business, I'm going to now activate it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I hope that Agri has picked something. Adrian, your hand was up. I don't know if you still have a question. I'll just go to the opportunity, but much appreciated for that response. Joan? Okay, we do not have Adrian here. Adrian,
Ronald, I don't believe that entirely. He says that you need to quit your job when you have tried another hustle for at least 3 years. I did not try Imagine Me for 3 years. I hadn't tested it for that long. It's only that when I put my mind to it, it was a thing of jumping in and you're telling yourself, this thing has to work or it has to work. So you see, the thing is, when one foot is here and another foot is there, then you're thinking, this is what is going to happen. So we need to be clear in terms of what it is that we are pursuing. And that's why I say that we need to separate the theory from the reality. And this is where I will help you to draw the difference between a coach and a mentor. For example, if you've decided that now you've walked a journey with your coach and you're very clear in terms of the direction that you're taking, that might be a perfect time for you to find a mentor and say, I realize I want to pursue my accounting career and this is what is happening. Let me go and talk to somebody who has run a thriving accountancy firm. So that then they're telling you the technical side of things, because for me as a coach, I do not need to know anything about what you're doing. And that's the thing that I spend time explaining to people. All the things that you see us calling ourselves business coach, employment transition coach, I hear life coach, whatever coach, they don't mean anything in our coaching space, because the role of a coach is to manage a conversation. Now, whether that conversation is talking about Mars or is talking about food you're going to eat or weight loss, the science that somebody is able to apply to that conversation is what is going to give it an elevation. Because some people will come in and recently somebody reached out to me from the HR space and say, I am actually looking for a coach that is an HR expert. And I'm saying, are you sure you're looking for a coach or are you looking for a mentor? Those are two different things. Just point of information.
Thank you, Joan. There's a question here from Aisha Musaz. Aisha is one of the principal members of the Transformation Professionals Club. She says, what are some of the productivity tools and strategies that can help me stay organized and focused towards my entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, you guys are the guys who have grown up with AI. Productivity tool, if you follow Imagine Me Africa, you will find something called coach@imaginemeafrica.com. Even when people come into my inbox, I will immediately tell them, please channel your things through this so that we can fast track them. What does that mean? I'm using my time to focus on the things that I should focus on because one of my team members manages that account. They know what to do when an email lands there so that I'm not wasting a lot of time trying to explain certain things. By the time I'm meeting people, they are cleared through the channel that we have created as a standard operating procedure. So I think for me, when I think about some of these other tools that have come through, productivity tools, Gantt charts, it goes back to the old Gantt chart things to say, do I have a work plan? Do I have a daily to-do list or a not to-do list? You know, I have realized that even when you just decide there are certain things that I do not do, the moment somebody comes in and that's the agenda they are putting on the table, then you know you're going to save your time because you can already know, this one I don't touch. So I think for me, the productivity tools will depend on how you're defining productivity and what you want to track. And therefore you design whatever tools you're going to have to serve your productivity line. What works for me as a coach might be different from what a manufacturer, for example, would need. It will be different from what a travel agent like Rita would require. So it's different things for different people because maybe Rita might have to stay awake waiting for their people who are traveling and their flight is at midnight and they have to wait for that person.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to Adrian had put up his hand earlier on, and I know we are running short of time as well. So I just want to see Adrian, you could be able to just ask your question if you're there. If yes.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Coach Joan and Coach Samuel, for this insightful session. Mine may not really speak to the topic of today, but I really need guidance. I'm in my 20s and I graduated about a year ago. I have a child. I don't know whether it's a normal thing to do, but I find myself like my careers keep shifting, like my career plans always shift. For example, last year, I wanted a career to do with monitoring and evaluation, and I wanted to go back to school to pursue that. But then later on, media, I felt like I actually now want to go and do HR, and this has been on my mind the whole time. But then until recently, I had a conversation with someone, and they were telling me human resource is mainly dominated by women, and it would be a bet for a man to actually take it on. So they encouraged me to instead maybe do marketing, and I've been doing some research, and seems like marketing is also not a bad profession. So my ask is around how do I find my purpose? Like, how do I sit down and decide to zero on one thing? That's my main challenge. Thank you so much.
Samuel, do you see the challenge of talking to the wrong people? This morning, yes, this morning, no, yesterday. I was talking to two. Next week we are having an HR breakfast where I'm going to moderate, and two of the people that are on that panel are HR people, and they are both men. So know where you're looking for information from. We are talking passion. We are talking pursuing what you want. The others are perceptions. You're going to have to fight for what it is that you want. So it is really, we need to separate fact from fiction and perceptions. if you're going to have something that carves out a pathway. Otherwise, if you're looking for a perfect role, it doesn't exist. You know, now my fascination with a lot of these social media things, I keep on saying, yeah, in my next life, I will be a social media account manager, because there's quite a lot that I'm learning behind the scenes. And so, yeah, some of those things. And it's perfectly normal, because under 30, you're navigating, you're jumping from this, you're jumping from that. And eventually you will settle, eventually you'll get to that point of, I think this is what resonates with me, this is what I like, this is what is happening. And then you pursue that, because you're not going to be pursuing 1,001 things all at the same time.
All right. So there are 2 hands to take, and I know Joan already mentioned Joan's hour is very expensive. I don't want to get into an additional time. I know you have really been generous to us. So I don't know if you want to take those questions, or we can be able to have your closing remarks and you share with us. One of the questions was from, I think, my colleague is called Unzima, I think from South Sudan. I think his question was around any recommendations on how to upskill for somebody who is passionate about coaching. So if you want to, you're giving your remarks, maybe it would be very important to just tell people like Unzima on how they can tap into your products and services, as well as any other programs that you might have. But myself, I'm very, very, really glad to have you as a speaker to this session. I know what it takes to give us 2 hours of your time, and we are really grateful. That is what I can say, Joan.
Okay, thank you so much. One of the products we are really excited about that we are enjoying now, I'll tell you that my passion is that everybody who wants coaching should find it in their workplace. And that is something that I've passed on to my team, that whoever wants coaching should be able to find it in the workplace. So we are now equipping leaders and managers in the workplace to have the coaching skills. We do have a training coming up in July. That is July 7th to 9th. Feel free, like I said, coach@imaginemeafrica.com. Drop an email and very specifically ask about that coach training program, because we'll help you with the skilling to see what happens. And also, because you need community around yourself. So upskilling, yes, you upskill, but we also have, once we know that the program, the thing about, for example, we have the International Coaching Federation, but the International Coaching Federation approves certain programs. So in order to join the International Coaching Federation, which has also become a safe haven for us as coaches, is that your program must be approved by the International Coaching Federation as a program they recognize, in order for your coaches to be part of the International Coaching Federation. So that becomes also one of the things that you want to consider. It's a space that for us as coaches, we find amazing. Nobody has enough coaches on their benches, so we are always benchmarking on each other. But we keep on saying that if somebody cannot find the leeway to get into the ICF space, then we don't know why you should be giving them that work. Because you need to be part of us, and we realize that, yes, you're subscribing to a higher standard, and then we know that we can rely on you, because the good news is that the people who pay the bills are beginning to ask these questions. They will ask you, are you a member of the International Coaching Federation? So I think what we have done well as a body is that we've been able to position and enable people understand that there is what we call professional coaching, and there is a body called the International Coaching Federation that brings all the coaches together. So that is one of the spaces that in most cases, even when you look at calls for proposals, they are asking people to share their ICF certificates. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for that response, Joan. And I think at this point in time, I'll just ask you to give any closing remarks to our audience. Otherwise, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. For me, thank you for the opportunity. And there are 3 things. One, I'll go back to where the conversation started. discover self. Discover self, because once you've discovered self, you'll be able to serve humanity better. Secondly, invest in that discovery. Like I told you, I discovered I'm an encourager, and I realized the encouragement went into the line of coaching, and I've been able to invest in that skill. Thirdly, pursue that discovery of yours. Nobody is going to be more passionate about the thing that you're passionate about than yourself. In fact, it is the energy that you have that will get others to tag along or simply drop your dream alongside yourself. Those are the three things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joan. Friends, if you've learned something, please just give hand claps to Joan for all that sharing. Thank you, Joan, for the presentation, and we pray that may God bless you as you continue to serve and as you continue to transition. As Transformation Professionals Club, we're always glad to have people like you come through and share. And we also, we are a club that is of professionals that is trying to help each other in this journey, because the world is evolving so much. And we always want to see how do we help each other to also transform just as the world is transforming. So we hold such quite a number of programs like the one we've held today, inviting you. And we've had these conversations for the last 3 months as we started the new year, but also some parts of the last year. So thank you so much. So to our audience, we're glad to have you. Those that, if this is your first session, this is the Transformation Professionals Club, where we connect. That's our key role. And as you could see on my screen, we have an upcoming masterclass to help us take these conversations into a physical. This is our first physical masterclass. We've made it really affordable because we want to make sure that we meet and see how we can be able to thrive together. So if you can and you're around Kampala by that time, make sure that you pass in and you go to join us. And in case you want to be a member, we have a WhatsApp community. I know some of you are already in a WhatsApp community, so you can be able to join that community, but you can also be able to reach out in case you want to be a principal member who can be able to have more benefits as part of the club. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining in, and thanks to our YouTube community as well. You have been really very, very active there. Thank you so much. And if this session has been really, really helpful to you, feel free to share the YouTube link with someone out there who may need the message. And I also encourage you, I shared Joan's LinkedIn profile within the chat box. So feel free to follow Joan on her page, or that's LinkedIn. She also has her website, which I also shared. So make sure that you follow her. She shares quite insightful lessons. I know she just shared with us the nuggets, the 24 nuggets ahead of her birthday, which is something really very exciting that people are out there sharing about what they do. So make sure this is Joan's account. When you even go to LinkedIn and check Joan Mugenzi, you'll be able to catch her. And if you need to be able to book your coaching session with her, either you have a training with your organization on the aspects of retirement planning, transition, leadership, and so on, I think it would be very good to really visit her. She has very good recommendations for the clients she served. Joan, I love your website already, quite interactive. Congratulations on, again, that revamp as well. Let's keep up the game. So which is good. So that is Joan's website. You'll get there and you'll be amazed by the work that she does. She also wrote a book. I know that one time I reached out to her, and that book is, we should be able to get some more copies coming through. Her book is also on Amazon. It's called Corporates at the Crossroads. So you'll be able to catch her book. I've not read the book, but at least for the reviews I've gotten, the book are really insightful. So thank you so much once again, everyone who has been part of this. In case you have a takeaway, please share that. I'm just trying to share the access link to also our WhatsApp platform. That platform is an information WhatsApp platform where you can also be able to catch some of our sessions as they happen, especially on a weekly basis. And then also you can be able to get more information on how you can be a member and support these programs, but also get more support as a member. So that is what we basically do. So thank you so much, everyone, for being a good audience. And thanks, Joan, who has come through. So for now, I would like to bring this session to an end. And in case you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or any member, any admin of the Transformational Professionals Club. So as you could see, we have a number on our screen, which is +256 380 3255, or you can email us at the transformprofessionals@gmail.com, and we'll be able to support each other. Otherwise, thank you so much. We'll have a post on LinkedIn about the session, so feel free to check out. You can also check out my profile as well, Coach Samuel Uganda online, and please share your thoughts on what's your greatest takeaway. But otherwise, we are glad to have you, and we pray that may God bless you. In case you are out there and you lost your job and you are figuring out on what next, I think, like Joan said, wipe your tears and believe that you can start again. And I know that it is very possible for you. Start with what you have in your hand. As believers, we believe that Moses had a stick in his hand. So you too, you have something special with you that you could start with that could help you to be able to get started. And there's a lot. And one of the things that we are going to share in our masterclass is how you can be able to leverage on your skills to be able to create an income. So make sure that you come through for the masterclass such that we can be able to share and see how we can be able to grow each other. And in case you also want to be part of the masterclass, you can also just reach out to the same number, +256 70380 3255. And we will be able to give you the guidelines on how you can book. We only have 30 slots because of the facility where we are going to have the session from. So make sure that you are able to join in early such that you do not miss out on this opportunity. All right. So thank you so much, and may God bless you. Bye-bye.